and welcome. I'm Frances Finn. This is the Notts TV debate. You're about to get views on the news from three local people, so let's meet them. They've all got very different perspectives on life. Looking forward to what you've all got to say. Leslie Ayola is a Labour City Councillor and the founder of B Global, which supports ethnic minorities in business. Trey Gretton-Roche owns the Nottingham coffee business, Wired on Wheels. You can find her and the team at Colwick Park. And Bruce Lawton is a long-time Conservative county councillor representing Muscombe and Fiskerton. Well, let's get stuck into some of the things that have been affecting us here in Nottinghamshire. Top of my list for us this episode is the City Ground. So Nottingham Forest, a fantastic season. They're playing European football next season, and the local council has passed the plans to expand the stadium. So the Peter Taylor stand is going to be demolished and it's going to be replaced with a 10,000-seater stand. The capacity is going to go up by about 5,000 people. It's all going to cost about £130 million. Bigger the better for Nottingham. What do you think about this? Leslie, let's start with you. Some local councillors objected, of course, because of traffic and residents. How do you see this?
Well, they've got some valid concerns, and obviously there will be an element of disruption, you know, when new games do start. However, this is a chance of a lifetime. We need to think about the economy, and it will bring jobs to the area. It's going to bring a lot of opportunities, and so, you know, that's where I will be going. I'll be backing that idea, and I think if we creatively work around with, you know, some of the planners and the highway, etc., then they may be able to come up with some compromises along the way. But I think overall it's a good thing, and it needs to happen, and it's going to bring money to the local economy.
There are some trade-offs, by the way. The club has agreed to do things like pay £1 million to improve local bus services. It's giving £150,000 to upgrade the Castle Market A60 road junction. It's going to invest £200,000 into cycle improvements along Lady Bay Bridge. Now, this obviously is in response to local objection, which is we already can't cope with all these people. It's some residents say it's a problem for them when it's a match day. But with a club that size, is it worth it, Trey? Should we take that trade-off?
Well, I mean, hearing that, I feel slightly differently about it. So I kind of think if they're prepared to put that level of investment in, you know, I don't live in Lady Bay, so I can imagine that it must be hellish on match days. But if there are going to be these improvements that, and there's negotiations with planning and there's negotiations with police and traffic, you know, so I guess principally it could be a good idea for Nottingham, but yeah, kind of a little bit.
Are the people coming in and spending their money, Bruce? Is this how we benefit as a city? How are we benefiting?
I look at it from a different viewpoint, really. I think we've missed an opportunity to expand properly and do the job properly.
Because?
I think. Well, I was a lifelong Forest supporter, and I love the City Ground. Don't get me wrong, but wrong location, really. I think we've got the opportunity to do what Everton have done. You know, a number of Arsenal,
Derby County. Back in the early '90s, they were at the baseball grounds.
And build do a proper job.
Yeah. So Derby County, I know arch rivals of the Reds, but they built a brand new stadium at Pride Park in the '90s. They moved it out of the city. There's masses of parking, but you could argue the money doesn't get spent in the local bars, the restaurants, as so much if it's out of town.
I think there's another issue involved in it, because capacity allows the club to be able to spend more money on players, more money on wages, support the economy, and that would support the economy. At the end of the day, in my view, we've missed an opportunity to build an iconic new stadium that would future-proof the club.
Where would you put it?
There are several opportunities. It could go at Gamston, it could go out the other side of the city, the Derby side of the city, maybe attract a few Derby County supporters.
So Premiership football,
So that would be, but we are where we are now with it, and the decision has been made, and we can't go back. So,
but you think this is actually a mistake because now there is no going back?
Yeah, well, there is no going back. So I support my club and I want my club to expand, but at the end of the day, that would have been my preference.
And do you, I mean, as a business owner, Trey, how much of an impact do things like football clubs and the feel-good factor in a city make to people in real terms?
I don't really see it.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't really see it. I guess Hooters will, will be glad that there's more people coming. But I guess it's like any of these, big events that happen in city centre, like the beach and the, When I was in the city centre, we didn't see it. We actually we see a lack of business because actually they're heading to those kind of places. So those sort of big events don't really impact.
That's really interesting.
I'm
sorry to hear that. Yeah. All right, we're going to move on and talk about the thing the government has come under pressure over. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, lots being said about her being brought to tears apparently during Prime Minister's questions. It's all about welfare and the bill that the taxpayer is paying. So the cuts that the government proposed to welfare, particularly focusing on those with a disability, personal independence payments, it got passed, but after a lot of changes and not a great deal of money, it seems, is going to be saved after all. But here's the question. Is the Labour government right to try? Some Labour MPs who rebelled said this is not what Labour does. Labour does not cut benefits. You're a Labour city councillor. What was your feeling when you saw this? The bill has gone up. Since the pandemic, £20 billion it's gone up by to 70 billion. That's people making personal independence claims, disability allowances.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. It's just only set to go up further unless the government says it makes some changes. Is that fair enough?
These are the difficult conversations that people have to have, once you get into power. In an ideal world, we wouldn't want to touch, the welfare bill, but again, circumstances place us in a predicament where we have to do something. However, there has to be a way that it's be done more compassionately. It's got to be done in a way that doesn't harm people but helps them. And also, I think there's ways that money can be generated from other avenues as well. Now, I know that our own MP, Nadia Whittam, is quite vocal on this.
Yeah, she's very much against it.
But obviously comes up with some good ideas about where extra finances can be brought from to be able to balance these off. So it's really about the support you give to people so that they don't get into that predicament initially.
Looking at it from the outside, though, I will say it was slightly confusing as to what the cuts were and why some Labour MPs were campaigning along the lines that they were. For instance, they were saying that those with disabilities are going to be pushed into poverty, and yet the government was saying it was only going to be making changes to people in future to apply for their personal independence payments. The ones that are running at the moment, they said would be ineffective. Bruce, no? That's not how you saw it?
Plan.
Okay.
That was part and parcel.
Is that part of the amendations that we're seeing?
Yeah, that was the soft soaping some of the people that were against it, some of the MPs that were against it. Yeah, it's I mean, if you want my view, missed an opportunity. I can use an analogy actually we had at the county council, where we had an exponential number of children coming into care. We didn't change the criteria for the children coming into care or alter the MASH. What we did was look at the demand and why the demand was occurring in the first place and put in place the help necessary to stop people coming into the system. And if you don't do that early enough, then you will be in a position where you can't stop the flood. There's no doubt something has got to be done. It's becoming unaffordable.
I mean, we know that mental health is one of the biggest factors. That's the largest increase, isn't it?
For a small amount a lot smaller amount of money, you can solve the issue. We're doing exactly the same with SEND.
Do you think it's a widespread
honestly, I kid you not,
issue?
we need to be dealing with the demand, and the way you deal with the demand is get in at the start before that demand
of course,
occurs.
No one would disagree, but what's
that
the reality?
takes politicians, that takes leadership to be able to look at those issues and deal with their civil servants, and we haven't got that.
A wider issue to dealing with. And that is obviously putting more investment in at the early stages, preventing people from getting to the stage where they have to rely, on.
I think this is a wider issue, though, isn't it? Because I do agree with you that there is the welfare bill is too expensive. And so, you can't carry on with the amount of people that are wanting to claim PIP. You can't do that. I think
there are nine, just to come in, sorry, and carry on please, but there are 9 million economically inactive adults in the nation. So it's that as well. It's not just, we've got too many benefits to pay. It's how can we get more people in the workplace?
It's the Kenny Badenoch issue, isn't it? The rider is now bigger than the horse.
Right.
And you can't have that.
So back to your point. Forgive me.
So if we are talking about that many people that are inactive economically, that then has a play on how much we are able to claim in terms of taxes. So we have a welfare bill that is unaffordable. So we can't continue with that because that then has an impact in terms of social care at the other end of the age spectrum.
In just a few seconds, if you can, do you think our workplaces need to adapt and make it easier for those with issues to work?
Well, of course.
Because there might be barriers to those people.
Well, of course, and that should be where money is spent, and also where people can get the initial bit of help that they need, rather than immediately just going for
more investment in mental health issues.
Take a short break and
Absolutely.
come back in a moment and talk about whether we need so many universities. Hello, welcome back to the Notts TV debate with me, Frances Finn, and 3 Nottinghamshire panellists. We have Councillor Leslie Ayola, Trey Grant-Roach and Councillor Bruce Lawton. Now, a question about universities. The University of Nottingham has been in the news because staff there have voted in favour of strike action because the university wants to cut 280 jobs. As you may know, a lot of universities are up against it financially because of rising costs and declining overseas student numbers. The government announced under the Conservative leadership that dependents of foreign students would not be allowed to come with them. So they pay higher fees and universities have taken a financial hit. So, University of Nottingham staff voting to strike. But I'm asking, do we need as many university places or even as many universities? Bruce, I'll start with you because Suella Braverman, when you were in government, your party, she said she hoped this would lead to some universities closing because she thinks we've just got too many. What's your take on it?
I believe that we do have too many places. I think there's far too many people going to university. When I went to university, the polytechnics were in place, and they were providing a more work-based training for people to go and get employment. I think we've become far too academic. I think academics, there is a place for academia, obviously. I think what will happen is market forces will drive the universities out of the marketplace because young people now are saying enough is enough. We don't want the debt that you're giving us. And do I agree with student fees? Absolutely no. I think it's an absolute disgrace that all our students are being left with such a debt, and we should look at ways of trying to make it more affordable for them. But at the end of the day, market forces will take place. We need more plumbers, we need more bricklayers, we need people to do trades who can earn good wages.
Although, we are told, aren't we, that Britain, we're very much post-manufacturing, aren't we? We don't make as much as we used to. There aren't as many manual skilled jobs as there used to be. Therefore, we've got to train people up to get into the sectors that are there, which probably means university, does it?
Yeah, it's about the universities giving a better offer and offering different courses. Some of the courses may not be fit for purpose, but we know that obviously technology is a booming sector, and there needs to be a slightly a readjustment with universities. I don't believe that we need fewer. I believe we need probably the same amount, but obviously the offer is going to be slightly different. And then on top of that, what do universities do? They bring, again, money to the local economy. We can't deny, we can't sniff
But
that.
how much? Because the students, they're not spending great amounts of money, are they?
Oh, no,
Certainly
but-
they fill up our housing.
Well, obviously, we know that they do cost a great amount because obviously the money that comes into the local economy. Without that, we will see the difference. So,
Well,
yeah.
we do see the difference in the summer when the students go home. Right, you do see the difference.
Yeah,
You
it's a
talk
lot
to any
quieter.
taxi driver that's
it's,
working in
they'll have to find-
August.
yeah, they'll have
Right.
to
Well,
find-
that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, gone are the days when, we lived on a pot noodle and a few aspirin.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's all the coffees. But more seriously, Nottingham is a very, famously a great university city. We've got, I don't know how many. At the last count, it was somewhere like 60,000. It's probably gone up from that. But if you're a parent of a young adult, and you're seeing the thousands of pounds that are going into those 3 years at university, are we as a nation benefiting from that amount
Well,
of
I think
spend?
there's two different issues here, because there's the one issue which is that universities seem to be basing their business model on overseas students, and if those do decline, the numbers decline because of government policy, then clearly it's almost like it's one of those dot-com bubbles, isn't it? It's going to disintegrate. So there's the issue around how universities financially function, but then there's the other issue, which is, are degrees worthwhile? Would you seriously send your child now to university to come out with a £50,000 debt at the end of it? For what?
Depends what you're doing.
I agree
Depends
with you.
what you're doing.
It does
I mean,
depend,
there are
which I think-
degrees. So,
But that's
the
really
classic
sad.
Is my eldest daughter's doing medicine. You need
Yeah,
a
yes,
university.
of course.
You
But-
need a university to do medicine.
Course.
My youngest daughter did economics. Economics is an employable degree. If
Yeah.
you've got
Yeah.
a degree in economics, you can not walk
That's
into a
it.
job.
But can I just remind you as well, Leslie, that back in '97, when the Labour government came in, education,
50% of that.
Yeah,
and the amount of university places was escalated sky high. Every young person should have access to university education was the thinking,
helped.
and everybody thought at the time, oh, that sounds good. Was it the right thing to do?
I believe it was, because one, it brings people out of poverty. It's
But how
obviously-
has it?
Yeah,
It's
well,
put them now into £50,000 of debt.
it increases social mobility.
It's giving Trey a lot of staff, isn't it? All these graduates serving coffee.
Yeah, but like I say, universities, I think, will have to get to a position where they change their business model to do something, offer something which the market actually needs.
Well, this is
Now,
it. But why do
that's-
universities need to provide it?
You're missing the point.
They do have to, because obviously their backs against the wall. Because if they're not going to get money from central government, they're going to have to come up with a different
You're
solution.
missing the point. These 280 people are going on strike. They're not hurting
Rightly
the
so.
No, there's
university.
280
They're
jobs
hurting
that are
the very
going.
people that are paying their wages, which is the students. The students are the ones that are paying 9,000. They're the ones that are being let down.
The staff have every right to withdraw their labour if they feel the conditions aren't right. So we don't live in a dictatorship, we live in a democracy. And for them to be able to express their discomfort with the university, so the university can get round the table and come up with some creative solutions
But
to the problem.
isn't this exactly what you're suggesting? The University of Nottingham is changing its business model to fit the funding that it's getting through its students. And its overseas students.
Yes, I think that's a part of it. But again, they've got to keep working on it. It's not the final model, is it?
I want to move us on and talk about what should happen to people in Nottinghamshire that commit low-level crimes. There's a scheme being tried out in Ashfield. 700 offenders have been taking part in what you could call community payback, reparation work, things like scrubbing off graffiti, picking up litter. And it's all been funded through the Home Office's Anti-Social Behaviour Action Plan, delivered by the Police and Crime Commissioner in Nottinghamshire to certain areas here. So what do you think about that? So instead of sending someone to prison, get them out, doing some work for the community.
I think it's a fantastic idea, with one caveat, which is that it shouldn't just be scrubbing off graffiti, but there should be some dialogue with the community where that graffiti is, around the impact of that. And so that kind of, I think what we have is this disenfranchisement, you know, that your actions within a community aren't accountable. So if there is some dialogue with communities whereby people are saying, this is the impact of what these kind of low-level crimes, this is what the impact has on us. And then there's some engagement with that person around what they're doing and why they're doing it. You know, that
is this going to disincentivise that individual from committing further crime in a way that prison might?
I think
with engagement, yes, I think it would.
It's a possibility. On the flip side of it, you've also got to look about actually the costs of actually sending them to prison. Now the prisons are, you know, full at the moment in time. So the cost of sending them to prison and doing this other model, and I think you'll probably agree that restorative justice also plays a part in this. But actually, you're actually, you know, reforming the people's minds. Yeah. Giving them some new opportunities so that they can actually go in a different direction.
Overcrowding is driving this issue, isn't it? That's what's driving it. Will it work? It may well work in some cases. That there's no doubt. The problem lies with the cost, the organisation of it. It becomes very, very difficult when you've got 100 prisoners working in a particular area. You've got to bust them all out there. You've got to.
Well, they're not prisoners. That's the point.
No,
they're not prisoners.
They're still in the community.
Offenders.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is the organisation that's the issue.
Is it a soft option?
No, I don't think it is a soft option. No, you know, try it out, see whether it works.
So we're in Collick Park, and we often get vandalism, graffiti, you know, and it's really annoying and costly for us to be able to put those things right. I would love it for the people that are doing those things, that are bored, that are, for whatever reason, I'd love it for them to come down and just hear the impact of what their actions is doing to my business. I'd love that, and I'd love them to be able to put some of the things right that they've done. And then they will understand. Then they understand that their actions have consequences, and that's the bit that I think prison isn't effectively doing anything about. It's actions and consequences.
Actually, that's a good point. So with prison, it's the reverse, isn't it? You take people out of society, put them into a no consequences environment, whereas this is the reverse. It could be the reverse.
It could be.
So you very much like to see those partners come in and make this work. Just very briefly, got a minute left. Yvette Cooper, Home Secretary today, saying, as we film, more bobbies on the beat needed, town centres. Shoplifting is such an issue. Maybe community payback is a way of dealing with shoplifters, because many escaping action because of the pressure on the police. More bobbies on the beat?
100%. It's been, people have been crying out for it. Obviously, our Police and Crime Commissioner, Gary Godden, is obviously fully behind this. So, yeah, I believe it's going to, bring some consolation to, the people in communities, and give a bit of inspiration to say, well, look, things are changing, things are going to get better. Obviously, seeing a bobby on the beat does, impact the community.
All right, we've run out of time for this bit of the show. We'll come back in a few minutes and reflect on the first year of the Labour government. How do you rate how they've been doing? Hello, this is the Notts TV Debate. I'm Frances Finn. 3 guests for you this week, and they are Leslie Iola, Trey Grattan-Roach and Bruce Lawton. Just putting questions to the panel about the news that affects us here in Nottinghamshire. I'm wondering about a year of Labour government. So the nation voted very convincingly for a new government, and the Labour Party took charge. It's not been without controversy. The recent U-turn on welfare, also not a U-turn on welfare, but certainly on winter fuel payments. But the government say there's been positives too. Leslie, how do you rate the first year if you were to do the report card for the
That's
MPs?
I would say a good effort. However, there's still room for improvement. So you know, the task is so large and so immense, but actually, you know, it's going to take a bit of time to get it. But in all seriousness, there is a lot of work to do. Things aren't going to be easy. Yes, people will have to, you know, bear the burden somewhat. But however, I believe that obviously, you know, give them time to improve, give them time to look at different options, and we're going to slowly but surely get there. This is not a one-term thing. This is, you know, over the next couple of years,
that's certainly
things are
something
going
Keir
to start to
Starmer
get better.
keeps saying, doesn't it? It's like we've got to be patient, we've got to take the long-term view. These problems are not going to be fixed overnight. How much longer can you get away with saying that for, I wonder? What's your sense of it so far, Trent?
I'd say could do better. Big time. It feels a lot of the time where I'm thinking this is not the Labour government that I voted for. And I'm really grateful that there are MPs like Nadia Whittome that are standing up and kind of standing up against what seems to be a block vote from MPs on some, you know, really
but
crazy
these things
subjects.
that I guess are surprising, let's say, for Labour politicians, are driven by the disastrous state, it says, of the economy that it inherited. And the future projections. We've talked about the welfare bill. We've talked about, you know, it's a difficult time, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, of course it is, and I absolutely agree that, you know, the state of the country that they inherited from 15 years, 20 years of Tory government is, you know, that's not going to be sorted out in a year. However, I do think that there are some principles that are just being trodden over, like the welfare state, like winter payments, like democracy in terms of being able to protest. And those kind of things, I think, you know, this is dangerous ground where a Labour government is doing these things. So for me, it's very much could do better.
Interesting. Bruce, come back then.
Well, you don't have to listen to what I say, just listen to what the electorate are saying.
Well, they said it very loudly a year ago, didn't they?
No, we're talking about a year.
Yes, a year, yes.
You're asking me, you're saying
but
a year.
When
on.
Trey said,
you're talking about what happened.
But when
they
Trey said they inherited a financial mess, you said no.
And they made a mess of it. The electorate are now saying, you look at them, Labour is being reduced to third in many, many by-elections, right the way across the country. The fact of the matter is what is happening, the Labour government, because it is not making the correct changes and the correct policy changes, it's reverting back to what it's always done, is tax and spend. And that will create its own problems. It already is doing. National insurance...
but it's trying to cut the welfare bill. It's trying to cut the winter fuel payments. It can't win, can it?
They are not dealing with the core issue. We've just talked about PIPs quite recently. You know, they're not dealing with the core issue. Now, I'm the first person to say we didn't deal with the core issue and we should have done, you know? And we should come up with some policies that deal with the core issue, and that's what we're working on. But at the end of the day, unless you deal with that core issue, you have to tax and spend.
What's the core issue?
And this is, and
What's
they
the
will,
core issue?
and they are taxing people. And they're making them squeak.
What's the core issue? What's the core issue?
The core issue is dealing with demand on the state. That is the core issue. So that is what's driving the whole of the whole
getting
of the
more
budget.
people into work.
Unless you actually start dealing with, you know, the issues like, take for example, sugar diabetes in the NHS. Sugar diabetes in the NHS spends more than the whole of the fire service in the UK.
Type 2 diabetes.
One issue alone.
Well, that's a very complex issue, isn't it?
Let's deal with that issue. Let's look at the core reasons for it and control it.
Sure.
That will control your spend.
Related.
That will control your demand. Politicians need to start leading. They need to start leading, not just trailing.
Okay, so just to make sure this, all sides are heard. The spending of the state actually grew under the Conservative government, particularly when Rishi Sunak was because of a very difficult
Francis, we're right in the middle
financial...
of, we had COVID.
Exactly.
We had COVID,
Exactly.
which drove the whole of the
the
amount of borrowing that had to go
Bruce,
on
let's bring in the other
save
panellists.
the state.
Yes, exactly. I'm not saying whether it was a good or a bad thing, but you're saying we need to bring it right down. And the Labour Party is faced with a very difficult job, it says, given the spend. What about the small boats? Labour said it was going to smash the gangs, and the number of small boat crossings has increased, Leslie.
Yeah. It can be an easy solution. You know, if you would listen to, say, Farage, it's easy. You know, you just send them back. But obviously, you live in an international, community, and there's a reason why people are coming over. They've got family ties, etc. Obviously, you need to understand the international rule of law. But at the same time, what Keir is also trying to do is obviously negotiate with France, etc., to find other solutions. So it's a tough one. It's going to have to be dealt with, and I think the process what they're going through is potentially it might prove some fruit. But at the same time, people are still coming. Just
to sort of remind viewers, of some of the positive things that Labour has scored quite well in. Keir Starmer's posture and competence on an international level, dealing with Donald Trump, dealing with difficult situations. He's a statesman that gives you confidence, Trey, just finally?
He doesn't give me confidence.
Okay.
No, not at all. And I think the idea of Britain being on a global stage, it does feel like we're kind of knocking at the door going, hi, we're still here. So, no, I don't feel...
Here's an invite to Buckingham Palace. Yeah.
I don't feel there's any
Trump,
confidence. Yeah.
Okay, well, interesting. We will leave it there. I'm so sorry. We could go on, I know, a lot more, Bruce. But we'll move on, because I want to from one big picture situation to something a little less, let's say, consequential, perhaps. Bins in Sherwood Pines. So you're on your family cycle, you're going along the blue and the red, green trails, whatever you're doing. Where do you put your packed lunch litter? You put it back in your bag and you take it home, because Forestry England, which runs the forest there, and others in Nottinghamshire, says it's removing the bins. It wants you to take your litter home, including your dog mess. You might want to take an ice cream tub to put it in, it says on its website. It's kinder to the environment. Is it going to work?
Cost
Yeah,
cutting exercises.
that's all it is. That's all it is.
They're there. They're providing a service. When you provide a service,
that's what you pay your council tax.
That's what you have to do. You have to deal with people's rubbish. If she's running a restaurant, you have to deal with the rubbish that's left behind. At the end of the day, it's your responsibility.
But it clearly costs money to run the forest, to run the trails.
You deal with the hard yards as well as the easy stuff. Yeah. And that is one of the... It's just cost cutting.
Bruce, I agree with you.
Thank you very much. For the first time, eh?
Yeah. I mean, it's not...
called democracy.
It's not free to park your car at Sherwood Pines, let's put it that way. So the thing is, times are hard. Should we not, as citizens, play our part and help these places survive a tough time and at least take our rubbish home?
Be brought back to another local authority to process.
Yeah, I mean, I think let's say what it is. We're all in agreement here that, this is not about environmental perspective. This is really just about saving money and shifting costs.
Rubbish on the highway.
Yeah.
That's directly thrown out the car.
Yeah.
All that'll happen is they'll drive down the road and sling it out. Not everybody is plugged in to that mindset. And they will remove the rubbish. That's why we get fly tipping, because people break the law, and they break the law for the simple reason it suits them.
The risk at Sherwood Pines and other forests affected is that people will just chuck the litter down, isn't it? And who's going to clean that up? So that's another expense, isn't it? Yeah.
A fire hazard as well.
Yes.
Which is the last thing
would
they
you be
want.
happy to pay a little bit more parking then to cover the cost of emptying the bins?
I'd like to see the balance sheet that shows that at the moment the bins aren't already costed.
It's probably human resources, which obviously be the biggest cost.
You could just say the same argument about all our dog poo bins. I mean, I represent a large rural area. There's dog poo. There must be 500 dog poo bins in my patch. all of them are providing a service. It's stopping people throwing plastic bags with dog poo into the hedge bottom. I'm all for it, or onto the hedges or whatever. You know?
Although some people still do. It's unbelievable. Whether there's bins or not, some people will chuck their rubbish down.
But if you don't make the facility available, you won't encourage it.
Yeah, I mean, should it? And presumably, at some level, there are licences given to Forestry England to run their facilities. Should it be compulsory that there is some sort of refuse collection?
It's services. I absolutely agree with you. It's services. There should be, as there should be, toilets in parks.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have this issue at Colic Park. Toilets sometimes available, sometimes not available, and it's a service that is absolutely necessary because, you know, the alternative. This is a family show, so we. But it happens.
Yeah,
but
of
it
course,
happens.
of course, yes.
Yeah.
Well, another symptom of the cost of living, I guess, and the challenge of running enterprises and businesses. We'll talk some more after a short break. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about whether older dads make better parents. That plus a few more topics to come. Don't go away. Hello, this is the final part of the Notts TV debate with me, Frances Finn. We're debating the news and in particular what's affecting you here in Nottinghamshire, thanks to our panel. We have Councillor Leslie Iola, Trey Grattan-Roach and Councillor Bruce Lawton. Now, my question about climate change is how much do you care about it right now? There's been a survey and it seems that more than half of adults do see it as an important issue in the UK today. That's 53%, but only 2 years ago that figure was 69%. So what's going on? Trey, do you care about it as much as you used to?
Well, it's interesting. It's not top of my mind. So I was initially, a bit shocked by those figures. But I guess it's like Maslow's hierarchies of needs, isn't it? It's like whatever is more dominant in terms of, you know, cost of living and that kind of stuff. But Palestine, you know, it's just, it feels like there are other pressing things. But, you know, there's not going to be a world if we carry on doing what we're doing. So.
I wonder whether also when you hear things coming from America, like Donald Trump saying, forget net zero, you know, forget all of this move towards green fuel. If it doesn't benefit the working American person, then it can hop it. And I think that speaks into quite
short-sighted.
A view, though, of ordinary people who are facing large bills.
That's where it comes from. It comes from, you know, I bet the change is mainly down to the fact that people have got greater costs within their home. And that it ceases to become an affordable priority for them, and therefore they look at elsewhere to put their support into different issues. And it's a fact of the matter. Sorry, I mean the fact of the matter is the more you tax people, the more they change their priorities.
Well, I mean there are certainly more electric vehicles on the roads than there used to be. However, they did predict 10 years ago that we'd all be driving them by now, and we certainly aren't.
The cost has got to come down. Yeah, cost of to manufacture them, and obviously the daily use of them has also got to change as well. So whilst it is a priority, it's got to be also a priority in people's pockets as well.
Yes, well, I mean, Bruce, you've got an electric car. It doesn't always serve you well, you say.
The Chinese are flooding the market with cheap cars.
Yeah.
You can buy a SUV now for a brand new one for £22,000 that's come from China. It's not the issue is about the infrastructure that's out there to be able to deal with electric cars as much as affordability. And I think as far as it's concerned, we need to do more. We need to do more to make them more usable.
So the heat wave that we've had, it does put it back onto our agenda. If we're suffering as a result of something, we care about it. With climate change, perhaps it's always a little bit too far off, isn't it? heat wave, we're all worried again, maybe unwilling to take some action. But it's an interesting one, and it's down to what's going to get votes at the next election, Bruce.
But it does also feel really hard to kind of think around personal responsibility with climate change when you do have a nation state like America that is just basically saying, we're not going to do any of that anymore, and we're going to start putting more money into oil and fossil fuels. How do you balance that as an individual?
That's right. Another topic. Let's move on and talk about how you find your working life. So Mind UK has asked people since the pandemic, how does your work affect your mental health? And 68% say they are negatively affected by their jobs, but 42% say flexible working improves their well-being. Should all bosses bring in flexible working, Trey, as a boss?
Well,
flexible, so maybe you do your hours, but you can choose them a bit more.
Yeah. Well, I think there are some industries that lend themselves to that kind of model, and I think should. I'm not sure how.
Hospitality wouldn't quite work the same.
It would, So, but I do think in terms of office work, in terms of other industries where it's possible to do that, and there was that trial where businesses were asked to pilot schemes of either 4-day weeks or 9-day fortnights, and that trial's finished now, and every single one of those companies that participated are carrying on with their flexible working. So it is good for business, and it is good for the people that work there.
4-day week, do they do the same hours but spread across 4 days, or less hours but on the same pay?
I thought it was the same hours spread across 4 days.
I don't know, it's interesting. But certainly, who wouldn't want a 3-day weekend, Leslie? Flexible working, what's the way forward for us all? We hear about mental health.
I'm in support.
We need to be happier.
Flexible working. And obviously it depends on the sector.
Yeah.
But you've also got to think about the mental health with people, but also businesses need to be mindful about the environment where they're operating in, and the biggest priority for them, yes, it's the biggest cost, but the biggest priority are your human resources. Keep them
Bruce,
right.
You're shaking your head in disgust here.
Well, it's interesting because we've just run an election campaign in May, and the overriding thing is during the day when I'm knocking on doors, and people working from home are coming to the door, and you're looking at it and you're thinking, you're really isolated here. You're isolated on your own. Do you know what I mean? And we're talking about mental health issues. I think it's a time bomb as far as mental health issues, because these people are stuck in their office or in their lounge at home, and they're not interacting. They're not talking to people. They're not dealing with issues collectively.
Is it about choice though too? For all you know, they might just be at home 1 day a week, and it's saving them a 3-hour round trip to work.
There was more than. There was a lot of them.
Okay.
A lot of them.
But flexible could be you're in the office, but maybe instead of having to get in for 9 through the rush hour, you can get in at 10 and leave a little bit later.
Choice and balance.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree. It makes absolute sense.
Yeah. Okay, there's a final question for us this episode, and that is about dads. What's a good age to become a father? It's changing, it seems, because official figures show there's been a notable rise in babies born to dads who are over the age of 60. Meanwhile, the number of dads aged 30 or under has gone down. So, do older dads make better parents, Leslie?
Well, in my case, I'm 54 and I've got a 13-year-old and a 4-year-old. So I would say that my patience has increased. I've been more so.
You think you're a better dad now than you would have been 20 years ago?
Questionable whether my daughter thinks that, but I
you know yourself.
I think it does. So there's a lot more challenges, when you're younger. Obviously, finances as well. But it's not to say that all dads at different ages can't provide something good for their children.
Very diplomatic. Just thinking about the kids, my husband, full disclosure, he was 55 when we had our daughter, because he's a bit older than me. And of course, it's in mine and my daughter's minds, you know, how long is he going to be around for? Is that fair on the kids?
Well, my dad was an older dad and actually died when I was 18. So, yeah, well, you know.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's an issue. But I think when we're talking about older dads being better dads, I'd like to know what the criteria is we're using around better.
Okay.
So, because are we talking about patience? Are we talking about financial stability? What are those issues that we're talking about? And then that doesn't necessarily relate just to older dads. That's just we're saying we need dads to be more patient with their children, or
I'm an older dad, and I did it for two reasons. First of all, financially. So I wanted to ensure that I was financially secure to have children and bring them up properly, and give them the opportunities I felt that they deserved. And the second one was a little bit more interesting, really. It allowed me to spend more time with my children. I'd already had my career, you know what I mean? I'd forged my career.
You weren't having to make your mark.
I could allocate, I could take them to school. You know, sometimes, you know, I could go on holiday with them more, I could do things with them, take them walking in the hills, teach them things that I felt was a skill that they needed for their adulthood. Yeah. I have to say, I don't say I've done a good job, but my girls ring me every day. They live in London and they ring me every day. And that's because, some of it is because I'm not just their dad, I'm a mate. Do you understand where I'm coming from? And that is, and I'm not saying that can't happen at a younger age, but you have different priorities to handle. And so that's where, and that's the reason why I became a late father, if you see where I'm coming from.
I think basically what we're saying is fathers need to be involved. Good fathers are involved in their children's lives, so that's kind of that's
that
not necessarily an
age,
exactly.
But it's easier if you're more financially secure.
And it's two sides of the coin, isn't it? If you're older and you've got more time on your hands, it's great when they're little, great when they're at school. But the time they get with you then, by the nature of your age, they don't get, you know, when they're into their 40s, 50s or whatever, you know. So it's a difficult, not a straightforward picture. There's no ideal, is there? I'm told that Ronnie Wood, who was on stage with Rod Stewart at Glastonbury, he was 69 when he had his twins.
Picasso.
How many nappies is he changing, I wonder?
Yeah, Picasso. Picasso was 79.
Picasso was 79?
Yeah, I think he was 79. Somebody will say I'm wrong, but he was very late in life when he had a child with his wife.
David Jason, Del Boy, was 61.
Are we going to talk about the fact that a 69-year-old man is sleeping with a woman of childbearing age? Charlie Chaplin was in his 80s.
It's a free society, Trey. It's a free society. We're not judging.
Just saying.
It's been very good to have you on the show. Thank you very much for being part of the Notts TV debate. Thanks to Councillor Leslie Ayola, Trey Gretton-Roche and Councillor Bruce Lawton. I'm Frances Finn and I hope we'll see you again for another edition of the Notts TV debate. Bye for now.